Today is a day that is foundational to everything we'll do in the semester, and if you can understand this, what we go through today, then everything we do throughout the whole semester will make sense. If you don't understand this, then the stuff we'll do the rest of the semester, it'll just be cutesy fun things. But if you can understand why we do all the things that we'll do, one, you'll be more motivated, but two, you'll also have some sense of, oh, this is what I'm doing when I do yoga. This is what I'm doing when I practice meditation based on today's class and Tuesdays to a large extent. This is going to make a profound difference in how you function every single moment of every single day. And I'm not kidding about that. If you could go every single day without stress, it's possible if you understand why it's happening, how it's happening, and subsequently what you can do about it so that it's not a big deal for you. So let me start with a question. Why would I care about how frequently you get headaches? Why would I care about what your resting heart rate is or where you're breathing from? Why would I care about how long it takes you to fall asleep? Why is that a thing that we could even, what does that have to do with stress, I guess is the question. And where I want to go with it is a little bit more of, well, what's causing those things? Because is there anything natural about a headache? Is that a natural thing that people should just get? Is it natural to spend 45 minutes trying to fall asleep? Is that a natural thing? When you were 2 or 1 or 6 months old, how long did it take you to fall asleep? Did it take 45 minutes? No, it's like you lie down and, is that how you say it? Lie down, lay down. You put your head on the pillow and 15 seconds later, bam, you're gone. Correct? That's natural. There's not anything natural about muscle pain if you've not been working out. So the question is, and I'm going to go the opposite direction of where you're going, which is later on in here, what's causing these problems? So let's go through this little scenario that I like to, and just kind of follow along and as you take notes, I would say take notes of the things that come to your mind as ideas, more than what you see and hear in the conversation. So let's pretend for a second, let's imagine for just a second that you and I are able to somehow magically transport ourselves back 100 generations. Okay, so just kind of picture in your mind, what would that be like 100 generations ago? So a long time. Okay, just kind of picture that. Let's pretend for a second that we live what wouldn't we have 100 generations ago that we have now? Technology for sure, ain't nothing that's got electricity associated with it. Good.
Modern day conveniences.
Like?
Food and water and shelter.
Yeah, you couldn't call up Amazon or Whole Foods and the next thing you know it's on your porch. Somebody's delivered it to you, or there weren't even stores to go get stuff. How did you get your food? Yeah, you went out and you had to find it. Bring it back home or pick it if it was harvest time or whatever. Okay, can you picture that? So here's what I wanted to do. Imagine for a second that you and I are 100 generations ago, and I've invited you over to my cave that's on the east bench, because I'm, cool. And you're in my neighborhood. We all live kind of in the same cool neighborhood. But we live out in the wilds. And I've invited you over to my place for a barbecue. We've just killed some big animal. I don't know what I don't know, a deer or something. And it's on the fire, and some of us are working on our Fred Flintstone golf game. We're just working on our short game. We're just hanging out, just having a good time together. Nothing's going on. We're waiting for waiting to eat our dinner. Can you picture that? Now, as we're there together, we notice, I live near a forest, and we notice that there emerges from this forest this gigantic bear. Huge bear. And he's running straight at us. He's really running toward the food, but to you it looks like he's running straight at you. Can you picture that? So there's you, and here's a bear, gigantic bear running at you. Okay, now, tell me, what's the first thought that's going to occur to you when you see this bear running full speed at you?
Run away.
What did you say? Run? That's your first thought?
I think if they have a bunch of people around, that's just more food. So fight or flight. So if you're by yourself, I think run and hide. If you're with a big group and you need food for the future, fight.
Okay, so kill this thing. And man, you're thinking a little more progressively. If you're not very fast, or your kids aren't very fast, you'll have an even more fight thought go on, right? Now, would anyone have a different thought than those two?
Honestly, I would probably just freeze.
What do you mean, freeze?
Just like there's a bear coming at me and just like stand there for a second
Crap.
while I'm trying to figure out what I want to do, and I don't know what I'd end up doing, but I'd freeze for a solid while.
Okay. All right. Now, you've heard this before, right? You've heard this fight or flight response. We all know, okay, he's going to talk about the fight or flight response. That's your second thought. There's a thought that comes before this.
Is it a swear word?
What might it sound like? Oh. Is that what you were thinking?
Yep.
Or, uh-oh. I'm in danger. I'm not safe. Yes? That's the thought that comes first. You always were taught, oh no, this is the first thing that happens. It's not. This is the first thing that happens. You have this thought. Is this a conscious thought? Is there a choice in that thought? Have you ever been in the presence of a bear and not been the least bit worried? Where you're 20 feet away from a bear and you're going, no big deal. Where does that happen? The zoo. You've all been at the zoo, and you've been close to a bear, yes? Or a big gorilla or big whatever, and you kind of go, oh, those guys are cute. Even if they're running at you, you're still going, yeah, no big deal. This is a conscious thought, because you have some choice in the matter. It doesn't matter that it's that it sounds like this, but you're still choosing this thought. Now, once you have this thought, that leads to a physiology that runs on its own. That makes you super speedy, super powerful right now, which we call the fight or flight response. Because when our ancestors were in the presence of the big bear, something about them said, it's kind of good to be alive and to stay alive, and if I run fast, I'll be able to get away from this bear. Or if I beat the tar out of this bear with my 9-iron, then I'll be able to stay alive. It's all about staying alive. But it doesn't start here, it starts here. Okay, we good with that so far? Now, once you have that thought that leads to this, there's a huge physiology change that happens head to toe. All kinds of things. There are many things that turn on, and there's many things that turn off. What are some of the things that immediately, what we say, increase in the physiology that help you become super fast, super powerful right now? What about it? Increases blood pressure. What else? It's a long list. I mean, this is, if you go into the textbook, it's really a long list, but I just want to go through a few, but we need to understand what's going on. What else? Adrenaline. What does it do? What about adrenaline? It increases? Excuse me. What is adrenaline? In the body, what is adrenaline? Right. And there's another hormone. Adrenaline gets all the publicity, but there's another hormone that's equally involved. Any of you know what that is? Do you know what it is? It's the other stress hormone. Yeah. So you have an increase in adrenaline, an increase in cortisol, and every cell in the body gets some. It floods from your adrenal glands, both, and every cell in the body it just floods the body. You've all felt this. And that primarily the increase in blood pressure and the increase in the nervous system activity, that's nervous system activity, creates the rest of the things that happen. So what are some more things that happen? Increased heart rate. Why would you have an increase in heart rate? Why would you have an increase in blood pressure? What's happening?
Your body needs more fuel for the cells to, so it can react to the body.
And when your heart's going faster, it gets it there more quickly, correct? The blood pressure increases because by virtue of the increased heart rate, and the demand just automatically does. What else? What other things happen in the body? Head to toe. What else? Increased blood sugar. That's interesting. Yep. Where does that come from? From your liver. We have lots of sugar just stored in our liver, just waiting for just these times when it needs to flood the body. It goes from wherever our liver is. It just goes, oh, she needs to run right now. Okay. And blood is suddenly flooded into our bloodstream so that it can go to where? Muscles. That's what you use to be fast, is sugar as your primary source of energy. Okay, what other things take place? What else turns on? What about them? They heighten? What do you mean? So you have such as what? Okay. There is one sense that obviously turns down. And it's not one of those 5 that you're referring to, but there's another sense that turns way down while you're in this. What is that? Yeah, pain. Yeah. Now, why does that make sense? Why would you not want to be as aware of pain as you're running from the bear?
You can't have something
Yeah. Yeah, does that make sense? If I'm running from the bear, last thing I want is to know that I broke my ankle as I tripped over a rock on my way from the bear. Got it? All right, so what other things we can continue with this list, and what other things would we probably put here as things that turn down or off?
Our digestive tract.
Goes up or down? Yeah, don't need to digest anything if you're running from the bear. Good. What else?
Bowel, bladder.
Yeah, the plumbing decreases. Good, yeah. What else? What is the system in the body when somebody over here sneezes and the rest of us go, and we don't get sick, even though she sneezed? Not that you did, I didn't. Your immune system goes down, right? You don't need the immune system. You don't need the reproductive system. What happens with muscles? They what? They tense up, don't they? Primarily, which ones would you guess? Your legs probably tense up, and what else would you guess? For sure your shoulders. Exactly. Yep. You're fighting. I mean, when I'm fighting something, this is all tense up. That's why we feel tense up here, is because, well, we'll get into that. So we have an increased tension in the muscles. What happens with your eyes? Pupils dilate, right? Why would they? That goes back to your thing. So you can see more clearly where you need to go, right? So what happens to let's see, your lungs? Are you going to be breathing just like a baby breathes? Really fast, really shallow breathing, correct? So you have a change in breathing to fast, shallow, so that you can do what? Why do you need to change? Why do you need to breathe more quickly? Yeah, so you can use more oxygen because you need oxygen and sugar to help create immediate energy. What happens to, let's see, where else can we, what do you think happens to your jaw? It clenches. Yeah.
You're going to be really awake, and so sleep would go down, or I guess awareness would go up. I don't know, either way.
There's no way you're going to fall asleep or doze off in the presence of a bear, for sure. Okay, now, it's a long list, and we kind of get an idea. Now, all of this has, as far as any researcher, any scientist today can figure out, and I'm included in that because I haven't found anything else, all of this has one single purpose. What is it?
Stay alive.
Yeah. What?
Just stay alive.
Stay alive. Survive. That is the only reason that we have the stress response as part of us, to stay away from physical danger. It's the only reason, it's the only purpose that anybody can figure out why we have this stress response, this fight or flight or freeze response. as part of us. I want you to think back to the last month of your life, or if it's easier to remember, just the last week. It's still the same thing. So think back to the last week of your life, and I want you to remember all the times that you were in situations that were equivalent to a bear chasing you, where your life, honest to goodness, was in danger, where you weren't physically safe, you could have died. And I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask each person, how much time in minutes or seconds you found yourself in those kinds of situations. Does that make sense? And for some of you, it might be 0. So, thinking back on your last month, how much of your last month were you in dangerous situations?
It's probably one time.
How long? What happened?
I was on my motorcycle and someone in the oncoming left turn lane turned in front of me. They didn't see me, I guess. I decided to swerve around.
How long did that take?
It's like a second.
1 second? Okay, so you're going to add, this is all adding right now, do add 0.01. Okay, how about you?
Sorry, I'm confused, but like.
Has to be where your life was in danger, you could have died.
Well, no.
Okay, so we all said the last month, right? We were kind of thinking of the last month. So here's the math I want you to do. Everyone kind of watch what I'm doing here. 30 days. So what's the total that you have there?
245.71.
Okay, so 246 minutes. Right? Okay, so now do this math. So 30 days times 24 hours in a day times 60 minutes in an hour. Am I doing that right? What's that? So 180, 1,800 times 24.
It's 43,200.
Okay, now I want you to divide 246 into that. So I think you'd put it like that, I think. So 246 divided by 43,200.
0.0056.
Which is the same as less than 1%. Horrible writing today. Okay. This is the same answer that I get every single time that I've been teaching this class for 20-some years. When we ask, how much of our lives are we in legitimate danger? And if we took out your experience, this would be 0.00000 some number. Correct? Now, here's the golden question. Since the stress response is only designed to keep us alive in the presence of physical danger, and we are never, except for very, very rare occasions, in physical danger, why would we ever have stress?
Time.
Kind of makes you, what?
I said time.
Time?
Yeah, that's one of my biggest stressors is I'm always running to get to the next place.
But you're not in danger.
Correct.
This is only, remember, never forget this. This is what nobody ever told you that's the truth that you need to know about stress. This is the only reason why we have the stress response. All of this happening for us is only for this. And yet we're never in this. How many of you, when we did that stressometer the other day, wrote 2 or above on the 0 to 10 scale? How many of you did higher than a 2? How many of you did 7 or 8 or higher? There were a few in here with, yeah, it was an 8. Why? We said earlier that this right here is a choice. Yes? What's your name? Esmeralda? Esperanza? Sorry, I'm old and can't hear. Can I use you for a second?
Sure.
Can you come up here?
Yeah.
Esperanza. That's a cool name. Means hope?
Yep.
That's cool. Okay. Hold on to that for a second. Okay. Now, I want you for just a second to imagine that you have been asked to sing the national anthem at the next Super Bowl, halftime of the Super Bowl. Okay? Can you imagine that?
Yeah, my heart is racing.
You started feeling that already?
Yep.
Okay, so regardless, you've been asked to sing at the Super Bowl, so you'll have millions, tens of millions of people watching you. There's no band, it's just you. The beginning of it's not halftime, it's always the beginning of the Super Bowl, right? The national anthem, right? Okay, now what I'd like you to do is, I'd like you to really pretend you're there, and I'd like you to sing to the class, the top of your lungs, like you would if it were the national anthem. Just go ahead and barrel it out.
Okay.
Just let it fly.
I think I would.
You remember the words, right?
Yeah, no, they're like leaving my mind right now.
So, where was our Einstein brain?
Yeah.
So, but no, really, just go ahead and I think it starts. Oh, say, can you see?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? I think that's probably.
That's
how
as far as
I
you want to
feel.
go right
Yep.
now.
You have a good voice. You should.
Let's give her a hand. Now, Esperanza, let me ask you this. So you said you noticed some of these things happening, yes?
Yeah, the breathing, I definitely felt an attention.
Okay, now, if you were at your house and you were vacuuming, nobody was around, or in your shower, you knew nobody was around,
That wouldn't be happening.
would you have any problem singing? You could probably sing at the top of your lungs, right?
I would just be jamming.
Yeah. So, here's my question for everybody. What is the difference? Because it's the same song in both cases. And she's doing the same thing in both cases. What's the difference between here or in front of tens of millions of people or at your house? What's the difference if you're doing the same thing in virtually every way? What's the difference?
She's not worried
Okay,
about.
explain what you mean.
Um,
What about people?
I'm like, wouldn't be afraid of ridicule or anything at home versus on stage. You know, if someone's not happy with a performance, they're just like, boo, get off stage, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
And that's stressful, especially with media coverage and everything. Like, that would be on the internet forever.
So,
You don't feel safe.
what is it about? So and this is really, this is the heart of the matter. When I said we need to get this, I wasn't kidding. If we can get this, we suddenly realize we can do something about it. Because here's the thing. There was, and you can go have a seat, by the way, and good job. Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, you're warm. She was sweating. Somebody from Canada called me up. They were doing this newsletter or blog or something. I don't remember, a podcast. And they asked me, they were asking me a bunch of questions about stress, and they said, what do you think is the greatest misconception that people have about stress? Of all the things that there is to do with stress, she said, what is the biggest misconception that people have about stress? In other words, what are we thinking wrongly? Which way are we thinking wrongly? And that's not a judgment on us. It's just we've been trained the wrong way. And and here's what I said, and this may be the same thing. I said, the belief that stress happens to us from an external something. That's the biggest misconception. Kind of like a virus or a bacteria. Somebody sneezes and we all go, and we breathe in the pathogens that you just sneezed out. And we think stress is the same way. He's making me stressed. She's making, that professor's making, that my mom or my dad is making me stressed. In my opinion, and I'm pretty sure this is accurate, that couldn't possibly be the case, that somebody else is doing it to you. Now, how could I prove that?
Well, even just what I was saying about how, like, thinking about all the people watching me and how it would be on the internet for the rest of my life, that's like me making myself nervous.
Exactly. She was having thoughts, and some of those thoughts were this. Now, the way we could prove this, going further on this, is, are there people who, if they stood here, and you're one of the probably 5 people who've ever actually sung, so nice job.
Yeah, I would have ran.
Yeah. How many in here would have, ain't no way I'm getting up there no matter what? How many would have said, no, I probably could have? Is there anyone in here probably, maybe could have, right? So it's the same thing, and yet some of you, and you especially, you said, hey, no way I'm getting over. You're back row, and that's where I'm staying because it's the safest place. That's where I always am, too, is the back row. And yet some of you, oh, no problem, I can do that. Or, it'd be difficult, but I could still do it. So it's the same thing in each case, but some are thinking one way about it, and others are thinking other ways about it. Can I ask you what your name is? Nicole. So Nicole, this is what she's saying. Get me the heck out of here. You want me to do that? No, I'm bolting the other way. Because she's saying, at some point, this thought is going to happen. Oh, right? And the body goes, okay, this is what you're saying. Boom, I'm going to turn on stress. But it is a choice. It is, see, I believe this, and this is what we'll kind of end today with. And we'll dive into this really heavily on Tuesday. I don't think anything, there's always exceptions. I don't think anything is inherently stressful. Until we get it that we're doing it to ourselves, we'll always be at the mercy of things that are so-called stressful. But as soon as we get this, I'm doing it to me, we immediately start to gain control. Otherwise, does that make sense? If we keep saying, well, it's my mom, it's my dad, it's my teacher, it's my coach, it's my this, it's my that. If we keep saying that, it will always be something that's making me. And there's nothing you can do about that. You're the victim. Now, if you want to stay the victim and live that, that's okay with you. I don't care. But if you want to get the upper hand on this, then the first thing you do is say, this is a choice I'm making about how I'm interpreting this situation, Because there's nothing that everybody's going to be stressed out about. I can't think of anything. I know plenty of people who would love to die. My grandpa was one. His wife had died 10 years earlier. He had a belief, and whether it's true or not, I don't know for sure, but he had a belief that life doesn't end at death. I don't know if that, I have a feeling that's true. I've kind of been there. But he wanted every day to not be here. Wasn't scared to death about life. Wasn't scared about death at all. So we say, last thing, what's the number one social fear in our country? Public speaking is number one. I've seen surveys where people are more afraid of public speaking than dying. And yet, there's plenty of people who stand on a pulpit or stand somewhere, no big deal, no, because they're not saying this about the public speaking. They're going, oh, no, I can handle that, piece of cake. So the message for today, 2 or 3, stress happens to us, or we create this stress by virtue of this right here, the belief that there's a bear, and this is what we're going to get into on Tuesday, is this right here. And this kicks on, but it's only supposed to last this long. Not all day. And that's what we will be playing with next week. Okay? Got it? Okay. We're only going to we don't have to spend too much time on the problem, but the difference between us and our ancestors of 100 generations ago is if we've decided the cause, it's what we're thinking about the situations, and here's what happens. Here's an example. I used to, I'm telling you all my stories. I used to repossess cars as a job. I'd steal people's cars. And what we would do is we'd go out at night and we'd, like middle of the night, before businesses started doing this, if somebody wouldn't pay their bill, we'd just go steal back the car. We'd go out in the middle of the night and we'd get keys and we'd just sneak in and steal the car and drive it back to the bank. Where I worked, there was, we had this secretary, her name was Daleen. And really, this was the extent of her day. And I'm not exaggerating in any way. Her day would look like this. And we'd go walk and that was like 9 to 5. That was what it looked like for her. And we'd go walking back to the car after work. We'd walk in the parking lot, and she'd say, man, I'm so tired. I'd look at her and go, how in the world can you be tired? You haven't done anything all day except sit at your I didn't say it in a mean way. But in my mind, I'm thinking, how can you possibly be tired? Because you haven't done anything to get yourself tired. And she would say, man, I'm just so stressed. I don't know. I'm just so tired. Well, what's going on? Why would she say she's tired? I mean, how could you explain that if you were a wise person? How would you explain that she's totally fatigued even though she hasn't done anything that would be like, All day long, she's saying, oh my gosh, oh no, oh geez. And her body, not knowing any differently, thinks those are legitimate bears, and this turns on, and primarily, in this case, where is the muscle tension? Is going all day long. Her muscles are tightening up because her body subconsciously is thinking, I should be killing a bear. Do you get that? Here, let's try this. Who's our strong? Can I use you again, Josh?
Yeah.
Can I use your bag? Okay. No, that's not very heavy. Has anyone got a really heavy bag? Like, can I use yours? Okay, Josh, can you stand up for just a second? That's kind of heavy. You guys don't have nearly the heavy bags that we used to have because there was no internet and you just carried 8 bags, 8 books. Okay, so pretty strong guy. Looks to me like he's a strong guy. All right, so here's what I want you to do. Let's see. Let's have you just go over here for a second. Okay, so I hold your arm out here. Now grab that. Now just stay there. Okay. So don't mind him. Just kind of focus back here. I know you're not going to be able to, but focus back here. Okay. So if we're, how are you doing? No, you can't use your other hand, your other arm. Oh, you can't bend your arm either. Yeah, struggling? But you weren't struggling before, but now you are? Do you feel like you need to rest?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Have a seat, thanks.
Now you need to do it with the other arm.
Yeah, so it's balanced. There, that's so right. Okay, now, you could do that for a little bit of time, but for not for very long. Muscles can't handle being in a state of tension for very long. That's why when you get a massage, you feel so good afterwards, because the muscles are going that are tight and, you know, the knots, and they massage them out and they go, whew, I'm not in tension state anymore. And suddenly we have more energy. It takes a lot of energy to be this. So it makes sense. Daleen was really tired at the end of the day because she's expended a tremendous amount of energy thinking, her body thinking that there was a bear and I need to do something about it. You getting this? Now, here's the next thing that's interesting about this, that nobody has ever told you before, probably. So the stress response, this is how it looks. This is how it's designed to look if you were to diagram it. So here we are, homeostasis. So we're hanging out at my cave, just getting ready to eat a beautiful barbecue, and we're working on our short game with our Fred Flintstone clubs. Bear shows up. So time's moving this way. Bear shows up, fight or flight response kicks in. This is F or FL. Fight or flight or freeze response kicks in. Now, here's the next question. How long does it take for us 100 generations ago to get away from the bear? How long? Just think about that. Just kind of go through your mind. How long would it take, probably, before I am no longer in danger? How long would you guess? What? Like what do you think? Yeah. If you could guess.
I don't know, but is it because, like, we're always under stress, our body doesn't react as much when we're in actual danger? Is that?
That's a different thing, I would say. If you're, and we'll kind of play with that in a little bit, so hold on to that idea. If you're running from the bear, full blast, or the moose, who saw the moose? So if you had to bike away from the moose, how long would you have to bike before you're no longer in danger of the moose?
Faster than the person behind me.
But not how fast, how long?
Hopefully just a couple of minutes or less. I mean, I don't know. Thank goodness I didn't have to experience that.
What would you say?
I don't know.
Go ahead.
Like until your body's not in that response? Or
No, until you're safe.
Danger?
Yeah.
2 minutes?
You think that long?
Maybe a minute is what I was thinking.
You think that long? It might be. Let me give you one example.
Depends on if you're on a bike or if you're running.
For sure.
True.
For sure. I had this experience. I was biking up in North Ogden. There's lots of fun trails up there, and I'd gone for about an hour and a half. I was just on my mountain bike, and I'd been biking for about an hour and a half, and it was a really, really hard ride. Lots of ups, lots of downs, and I was getting to the end of this ride, and I remember so clearly where I was. I came around, and there was this corner, and I had to do one final uphill before I went back down to my house, which is in North Ogden. I came around this corner, and there was this bush there, and I heard this sound. I didn't see anything, but I had a pretty good idea what that was. Right? You know what? Some kind, I mean, it had to be, it was a rattlesnake, I'm pretty sure. I tore up that mountain in nothing flat, faster than I had gone the rest of the ride, and I had been doing some downhills. I tore up that mountain so fast, and it took about 10 seconds to get to where, I probably could have, 3 seconds would have been enough for me to be out of range of that snake. And then when I got to the top of this little hill part, how do you think I felt? Besides safe, I was gassed. There was nothing left in the tank. This is how this looks. So you were thinking a minute, maybe 30 seconds. It's not very long, and we can't really say, well, it's exactly this. But it can't be very long. How long can somebody run the 100-yard? How fast can somebody continue at the 100-yard dash pace? 12 seconds if it's a girl, 10 if it's a guy. But could he go or she go 200 meters at that same pace, or 4 or 8? You only have so much energy to go at all-out speed. Right? So this response, 30, maybe 60 seconds maximum, is how long it must have taken our ancestors, and then it turns off and you're exhausted. You go through this exhaustion and repair, kind of restore phase, and then you go back to homeostasis again. So this, I know it's not a straight line, it should be, but after some resting, you're going back to, okay, now let's enjoy our picnic again. And that's how it's supposed to look. This is how it's designed to look, and we like it this way. What's your name? Malia. So when she is being, do they chase you?
Sometimes. It depends. We're usually like,
Malia.
so there's like home sessions, and at home sessions they'll for sure chase me because it's like.
You're at their house?
Sometimes.
Okay.
How old are these kids?
They range from 3 to 18, so, but I work with mostly teens.
So you've felt this before, yes? And have you ever felt like, man, I can go faster than ever when they're chasing me, than I normally would run?
For sure, yeah.
I remember, this is a horrible story. I mean, it's a horrible thing to say. When I was growing up, when we were teenagers, I lived in Provo, and we played baseball. We all played baseball during the summer. And just like here, if you play baseball, you can't play year-round. And so, but when wintertime came around, we'd go to this, we had this place in our neighborhood where there was a hedge in front of somebody's house, and then there was a street, and then the hospital was just beyond there. And we'd get behind this hedge, and the cars would come by, and we would just way into this. We'd try to make dent sounds in the cars, and the person who won was the one who made the best dent sound in somebody's. I know it's terrible, terrible thing to do, and I hate kids that do this now. But even more fun than making the dent sounds was when they would stop and chase us. Because we knew this neighborhood like the backs of our hands. You know, we knew exactly where the clotheslines were. We knew exactly how high the hedges. We knew exactly whose houses we could go through to get to where we would end up at Rick's house, where we would be safe, and we'd go down and we'd develop some more pictures or something. I mean, it was. But in those times when those guys were chasing us, we were supermen. We jumped higher than ever. We ran faster than ever. It was that feeling of just, oh man, this guy might kill me. Because we did that to his car. I know, it's a horrible thing. But it was amazing in those moments, and we would fly down this street, but we couldn't go very long. Because we'd get to the end, and we were just, you know, we're out of gas. We're here. And then we'd rest, and then we'd go out and throw some more snowballs. Okay. Now, does that make sense to everyone so far? So what is the, let's review for a second. What's the cause? What is the cause of all of this right here, all of this right here? What is the cause? This is the cause. Our thoughts that say, I'm not safe, I'm in danger, oh, uh-oh. That's the cause. And it is a conscious thought. It is a thought that you have about the situation.